Welcome. You're here because you want to get smart, fast, on the topics that matter. No fluff, just the core insights.
That's the idea.
And right now, one topic is really dominating conversations. Bitcoin's explosive climb back above $100,000.
Exactly. We've sifted through a whole lot of stuff, news articles, market data, even legislative info to really bring you the crucial bits behind this surge.
Right. So our mission today is to understand what's fueling this, six-figure comeback, and maybe more importantly, what it signals about where Bitcoin stands right now.
Okay.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're not just talking about Bitcoin briefly tapping $100,000. It actually punched through to $101.07.
Yeah, $127. That's its highest point since, what was it, February. So it's a pretty significant move.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting here is, yeah, an initial spike might have been kicked off by about $241 million in futures market liquidations.
Right, the short squeezes.
Exactly. When traders betting against the price get forced out, it pushes the price up. But the fact that it stayed up suggests something, well, more fundamental is going on. There seems to be this growing confidence among traders, like $100,000 is maybe the new floor, a new support level.
Yeah, analysts seem to be really watching that. Can Bitcoin hold this level? It's, about setting up camp there, not just visiting.
It's establishing a new baseline.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
Our sources are pointing to a much more, let's say, supportive backdrop now. Regulation, traditional finance. It feels different compared to the last time Bitcoin was this high.
That's a key point. If you look at the bigger picture, the whole environment has shifted quite a bit.
Right.
The political landscape, the investment landscape for Bitcoin, it just feels, I don't know, more mature now.
Yeah, mature is a good word.
This rally doesn't seem to be just pure speculation this time. There are, actual concrete developments happening that look like they're providing a stronger foundation.
Okay, so let's dig into those concrete things then. We're seeing some, well, pretty interesting moves on the legislative front. For instance, 2 U.S. states have now actually signed bills into law, bills that legalize setting up strategic Bitcoin reserves.
Wow, okay. State-level Bitcoin reserves.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty noteworthy that governments are starting to think about holding Bitcoin like an asset.
It is.
And our sources directly link this kind of acceptance, this news, to Bitcoin hitting that $101.07 mark and maybe speeding up wider adoption too.
That definitely raises a big question about how Bitcoin's perceived, doesn't it? It's moving beyond just, digital cash or a spec play.
Right.
If governments are looking at it strategically, maybe like other reserve assets, well, that kind of thinking could have really significant long-term effects on stability, value, everything.
And it's not just the reserves. We also saw Missouri passed a bill, I think it was May 8th.
Yep, saw that.
If the governor signs it, he gets rid of all capital gains taxes. Now, okay, that's not just for Bitcoin, but
it makes the whole investment climate potentially more attractive. Yeah.
Right.
Anything that reduces friction for investing could help assets like Bitcoin.
Exactly. And then on the regulatory side, we've had some key clarifications. The OCC, the Office of the Controller of the Currency,
The bank regulator.
they confirmed on May 7th that banks can, responsibly, their word, trade crypto for customers.
Yeah.
And even outsource things like custody.
That's big. That kind of guidance gives traditional banks a clear path if they want to get into the crypto space, removes some uncertainty.
And it follows that FDIC guidance from late March, wasn't it?
Yeah, end of March.
Basically giving banks the green light to hold crypto assets, offer related services.
Yeah.
It really feels like the regulatory picture, which used to be so murky.
It's becoming clearer and maybe, dare I say, a bit more welcoming for Bitcoin and crypto generally.
Seems like it.
Precisely. There's this definite trend towards, greater acceptance and clarity. And less uncertainty usually encourages more adoption, especially from, the traditional players.
Speaking of traditional players, institutional adoption seems like a huge piece of this puzzle.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources just keep highlighting the massive inflows into the spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Yeah, the volumes are impressive.
And just for anyone less familiar, a spot Bitcoin ETF basically lets investors get exposure to Bitcoin price moves without, holding the keys themselves. It's through a normal brokerage account, regulated, familiar.
Right. And the sheer amount of money pouring into these things is a really strong signal of institutional interest. We're talking serious capital.
And it's not just the ETFs either, is it?
No, not at all. We're also seeing more and more publicly listed companies, U.S., international, actually buying Bitcoin and putting it on their balance sheets, adding it to their corporate treasuries.
Which is a pretty major financial decision for an established company.
Totally. It signals this growing belief, maybe, in Bitcoin as a legitimate store of value or maybe a strategic hedge, something like that.
And if you're curious about tracking those ETF flows, um, social value is a name that kept popping up in our sources. Apparently a good place to watch that institutional money move.
Good tip.
But the good vibes for Bitcoin weren't only internal to crypto, right? It seems like broader market optimism played a part too.
That's right. Bitcoin's price also got a bit of a lift after President Trump announced a potential trade deal with the UK.
Ah, right, the tariff removal possibility.
Yeah, potentially removing a 10% import tariff. And, markets generally like news that suggests more global trade, less friction, better economic activity.
Makes sense.
And there were hints of other talks, too. I think a planned meeting with Chinese officials.
Yeah, May 10th in Switzerland, apparently. Plus, we saw that Truth Social post from Trump saying many other deals were being negotiated.
Right. And you saw the reaction in traditional markets, too. The Dow jumped, 500 points?
Yeah, big jump. And the S&P 500 was up almost 1.5%.
And right around when all that news was breaking, Bitcoin was trading near that $101,600 level.
So it looks like a mix of things then.
Yeah, it really seems like a combination. You've got the positive regulatory shifts making it easier for institutions. You've got the hard evidence of them getting involved through ETFs and company buying.
Yep.
And then you layer on this sort of broader market optimism, maybe sparked by these trade developments. It just creates a more positive environment overall for riskier assets, and Bitcoin fits that bill.
It really does paint a picture of, like you said, a much more fertile ground for Bitcoin this time around, compared to its last trip above $100 K.
Yeah.
The headwinds feel like they've eased off.
Yeah. Replaced by what looks like maybe more sustained support and interest.
Feels different.
Absolutely. The pieces just seem to be kind of aligning in a way that suggests this move above $100,000. It might just have more staying power than before.
Okay, so let's bring it all together then. The key drivers pushing Bitcoin past $100 K seem to be this potent mix. Regulations becoming more favorable, opening the door.
Less uncertainty.
Significant institutional money actually flowing in through ETFs, corporate buys.
Tangible demand.
And just this general sense of optimism in the wider markets, maybe tied to global trade news. So you, listening now, should have a much clearer understanding of the forces behind this pretty significant market event.
And, that leads us to a really interesting question for you to maybe mull over. Given this convergence, right? Positive regulation, institutions coming in, Bitcoin reacting to broader market stuff. What could the longer-term implications actually be for Bitcoin's role in the global financial system? Are we sort of on the edge of Bitcoin becoming much more integrated? Or are there still major hurdles ahead? Something to think about.